The search and rescue shuttles moved through the debris field, scanning for survivors. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, the true cost became visible. 23 human ships had been destroyed completely. Another 89 were damaged so badly they would need months in shipyard to repair. Thousands of crew members were dead or wounded, but they had won. Commander Taeyang Park stood in the medical bay of the Indomitable, watching doctors work on the wounded. Burns, broken bones, radiation sickness. War always had a price, and these people had paid it. He made himself look at each injured crew member, remembering their sacrifice. They had earned his attention. "Commander," a medical officer called out. "We found her. Captain Choi is alive." Taeyang felt relief wash over him. Mireille had ejected just before impact, and her suit's beacon had guided rescue teams to her position. She was suffering from oxygen deprivation and some broken ribs from the ejection, but she would survive. She was unconscious now, her face peaceful despite the oxygen mask covering her nose and mouth. "She killed their flagship," Taeyang said quietly to the doctor. "She flew straight at it knowing she probably wouldn't survive. That's the kind of person she is. She'll want to know if it worked," the doctor replied. "When she wakes up, what should I tell her?" "Tell her we won. Tell her that her attack broke the Vrin completely. Tell her she saved this entire sector." Lieutenant Do-Hyun Kim appeared at the medical bay entrance. "Sir, Coalition leadership is requesting a meeting. They want to speak with you and Admiral Hyunwoo immediately." Taeyang nodded and left the medical bay. He found Admiral Hyunwoo on the observation deck, staring out at the wreckage. The old man's uniform was scorched and dirty, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes held satisfaction. "We did it," Hyunwoo said without turning around. "We stopped the Vrin advance. First time in 30 years that's happened." "At a high cost," Taeyang replied. "War always costs. The question is whether the cost was worth it. 2,000 human deaths to save billions of alien lives? Yes, that was worth it." Hyunwoo turned to face him. "The Coalition wants to talk. They're probably going to ask us to do it again." They made their way to the communication center where a holographic conference was being set up. Representatives from all 12 Coalition species appeared one by one, their faces showing various expressions of shock, gratitude, and fear. Velshara, the council leader, spoke first. Her energy form pulsed with colors that indicated deep emotion. "Commander Park, Admiral Kang, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I offer our deepest gratitude and our most sincere apologies." "Apologies for what?" Taeyang asked. "For doubting you, for thinking your fleet would be nothing more than a noble sacrifice, for not understanding what humanity was capable of." She paused, her energy flickering. "We watched your battle. We saw weapons we've never imagined being used. We saw tactics that break every rule of civilized warfare. We saw you win against odds that should have been impossible." The Anthari delegate spoke next, her crystalline voice stronger than it had been at the last meeting. "You saved 3 of our colony worlds. Millions of Anthari owe their lives to human sacrifice. We will never forget this debt." One by one, the other species offered their thanks. But Taeyang could see something else in their expressions besides gratitude. They were afraid, not of the Vrin anymore, but of humanity. They had seen what humans could do when pushed to violence, and it terrified them. The Keltar representative, who had fought alongside the human fleet, addressed this directly. "Commander, I must ask. The weapons you used, the tactics you employed, they're unlike anything we've seen. Nuclear weapons in space, coordinated plasma weapons that can reshape battlefields, fighters that operate with suicidal precision. Where did you learn to fight like this?" Admiral Hyunwoo answered before Taeyang could. "We learned it fighting ourselves. Humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war because we had no choice. We fought over food, water, land, resources, ideas, and pride. We killed billions of our own species in conflicts that accomplished nothing. Every weapon we used against the Vrin we first tested on other humans." The chamber went silent. The aliens processed this information, trying to understand a species that would spend millennia killing its own kind. "But that's over now," Taeyang added. "We stopped fighting each other because we finally grew up enough to realize how stupid it was. But we didn't forget the lessons. We didn't forget how to win wars. And when you needed help, we brought everything we learned and used it to save you instead of destroy ourselves." Velshara's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. "The Vrin have sent a communication. It's the first time in their recorded history that they've initiated diplomatic contact. They want to negotiate. Hyunwoo's eyebrows rose. The Vryn don't negotiate. They conquer or they die. They do now. Your battle changed something fundamental in their empire. They lost 8,000 ships in a single engagement. That's more than they've lost in the entire war up to this point. And it was humans, a species they had never heard of before, who destroyed them. Velshara's form brightened. You broke them, Commander. You showed them they could lose. Taeyang thought about this. The Vryn had been unstoppable because they had never been stopped. They had never faced an enemy that refused to give up, that fought with calculation and fury combined. Humanity had shown them something new. Fear. What are their terms? He asked. They want a ceasefire. They're offering to withdraw from occupied territories and establish a neutral zone. In exchange, they want assurances that humanity won't pursue them into their own space. Hyunwoo laughed, a short, harsh sound. They're afraid we'll take the fight to them. Good. Let them be afraid. Fear will keep them from trying this again. The Keltar representative leaned forward. The Coalition Council is prepared to vote on making humanity the primary military authority in our defense forces. Your tactics, your weapons, your way of war. We need to learn them. We need you to teach us how to fight like you do. Taeyang exchanged a look with Hyunwoo. This was what they had expected, but hearing it said out loud made it real. The Coalition wanted to turn humanity into their military arm, wanted to learn the brutal lessons that 10,000 years of human warfare had taught. We'll accept, Taeyang said carefully, but on our terms. We're not mercenaries. We're not your attack dogs. We're partners, equals. We'll teach you what we know, but we do it our way. And we fight to win, not to look civilized. War isn't civilized, and pretending it is just gets people killed. Velshara consulted with the other delegates through their private channels. After a moment, she spoke again. The Council accepts your terms. Humanity will have equal voting rights and military authority within the Coalition. You'll train our forces and lead our defense. In return, we offer full access to our technology, our resources, and our support. Then we have a deal, Taeyang said. But understand something. We're going to teach you things that will make you uncomfortable. We're going to show you weapons that seem barbaric. We're going to use tactics that feel wrong, but they work. If you want to survive against enemies like the Vryn, you need to be willing to fight the way we fight. Dr. Jisoo Lee had been listening to the conversation from her position off-screen. Now she spoke up. I've been analyzing the Vryn ships we destroyed. Their organic technology is incredible, but it has a weakness. They evolved it for conquest, not defense. They never expected to face an enemy that would push back this hard. That's why our weapons worked so well. We targeted weaknesses they didn't know they had. Which means other enemies might have different weaknesses, Do-hyun added. He had been running tactical analyses since the battle ended. The Vryn fought with swarm tactics and coordination. The next enemy might be different. We'll need to adapt. That's another thing humans are good at, Hyunwoo said. Adapting. We survived ice ages, droughts, plagues, and our own stupidity, because we could adapt faster than our environment could kill us. We'll teach you that too. The meeting continued for another hour, working out details and establishing protocols. When it finally ended, Taeyang made his way back to the observation deck. He stared out at the planet they had saved, watching it turn slowly against the backdrop of stars. Captain Mireille found him there several hours later. She was moving slowly, her ribs still healing, but she had insisted on leaving medical bay. She stood beside him in silence for a moment. Did we do the right thing? She asked quietly. Teaching them how to wage war like we do? I don't know, Taeyang admitted. We showed them how brutal we can be when we need to be. That might make them stronger, or it might just turn them into something they don't want to be. The Vryn are negotiating, Mireille said. First time ever. We scared them so badly they want peace. That has to count for something. Maybe. Or maybe we just delayed the next war. Taeyang sighed. But we saved millions of lives today. Whatever happens next, we can live with that. 2 weeks later, the Vryn Empire formally sued for peace. The treaty was signed on a neutral station, with human representatives present to ensure compliance. The Vryn agreed to withdraw from all occupied territories, pay reparations to affected species, and establish a demilitarized zone between their empire and coalition space. 6,000 Vryn ships moved through space like a living tide. They came from every direction at once, converging on the human fleet with coordinated precision. The swarm moved with a single purpose: total annihilation of these strange creatures who dared to fight back. On the Indomitable's bridge, Commander Taeyang Park watched the approaching enemy with calm eyes. Around him, His crew worked at their stations with focused intensity. They knew what was coming. They knew the odds. But nobody showed fear. This was what they had trained for. This was humanity's test. Distance to enemy fleet? Taiyang asked. 200,000 kilometers and closing fast, Lieutenant Do-Yun Kim replied. His fingers danced across his console, adjusting tactical projections. They're maintaining formation. Looks like they plan to hit us from all sides simultaneously. Admiral Hun Wukang stood beside Taiyang, his weathered face showing satisfaction rather than worry. They're making the same mistake again. They think overwhelming force is enough. They don't understand that humans have been fighting overwhelming force since we lived in caves. The coalition ships that had survived the first battle were spread throughout the system, watching in stunned silence. They had seen the humans fight, seen them push back the Vrin when that should have been impossible. But now, 6,000 ships against less than 200? Nobody could survive that. A transmission came through from one of the coalition captains. Commander Park, you should retreat while you still can. Get your people out of here. You've done enough. You've shown us that the Vrin can be hurt. That's more than anyone else has accomplished. Taiyang opened the channel. We didn't come here to hurt them, Captain. We came here to stop them. Big difference. He closed the channel before the alien could respond. Captain Mireille Choi's voice crackled over the communication system from her fighter. All wings ready for launch, Commander. Just give us the word. Hold position, Taiyang ordered. We're going to thin them out first. Dr. Jisoo Lee's face appeared on a screen looking both excited and terrified. Project Hellstorm is ready. I need you to know, Commander, that this has never been tested at full scale. The simulations say it will work, but simulations aren't always right. Will it kill a lot of Vrin? Taiyang asked. If it works? Yes, a lot. Then we're using it. Prepare to activate on my command. The Vrin fleet closed to 100,000 kilometers. At this range, human sensors could see individual ships clearly. The Vrin vessels were ugly things, all organic curves and pulsing bioluminescence. They looked diseased, like tumors floating through space. Each one was different, grown rather than built. But they all served the same purpose: conquest and destruction. The Indomitable shuddered as several Vrin energy weapons struck its shields. The enemy was getting impatient, starting to fire before they were in optimal range. Good. Impatience led to mistakes. They're spreading their formation to surround us, Do-Hyun reported, trying to eliminate any escape routes. Perfect, Taiyang said. The more spread out they are, the better this works. Jisoo, activate Hellstorm. Full power. All across the human fleet, systems that had been carefully hidden now activated. Every ship had been equipped with the same technology, weapons that Jisoo had designed specifically for this moment. They were experimental plasma generators, each one capable of creating a focused beam of superheated matter. Individually, they were powerful. Together, coordinated and synchronized, they were devastating. The human ships fired simultaneously, not at individual targets, but at precise points in space calculated by Do-Hyun's tactical computer. The plasma beams intersected, combining their power, creating chain reactions that spread through space like wildfire. The effect was immediate and terrible. Plasma explosions bloomed across a huge volume of space, each one triggering others, creating a cascading wave of destruction. The Vrin had spread their formation to surround the humans, and that spread formation meant they couldn't concentrate their defenses. Ships caught in the plasma wave simply disintegrated. Their organic hulls couldn't withstand the heat. Hundreds died in seconds, then hundreds more. The Vrin Supreme Commander watched in horror as 1,500 ships vanished from existence. 1,500 vessels, each containing thousands of organisms, all gone in one coordinated strike. It was impossible. These creatures were supposed to be weak, inferior, yet they wielded weapons that could reshape space itself. Again, Taiyang shouted. Fire again while they're confused. The human fleet unleashed a second Hellstorm barrage. This time the Vrin tried to dodge, but their ships were too close together. The plasma found them anyway, burning through hulls and vaporizing crews. Another 500 ships died. On the Dawn's Edge, Mirai watched through her fighter's cockpit as the space around them turned into a light show of destruction. She had seen combat before, but nothing like this. The humans were reshaping the battlefield through sheer firepower. All wings, launch now. Taiyang's command came through. Hit them while they're disorganized. Mirai didn't need to be told twice. She punched her engines and shot out of the hangar, her squadron following close behind. 300 fighters launched from the carriers, racing into the chaos like sharks sensing blood in water. The Vryn tried to reform their lines, but the human pilots didn't give them time. They flew through the Vryn formation, targeting command ships, hitting weak points, destroying anything that looked important. Mirai's missiles found a large vessel that seemed to be coordinating an entire wing. She fired everything she had, watching with satisfaction as the ship broke apart. The coalition forces, seeing the humans take the offensive, rallied. Ships that had been retreating turned around and rejoined the fight. Alien captains who had given up hope now found themselves inspired by human audacity. If these newcomers could fight like this, then maybe there was still a chance. A Keltar battleship moved alongside the Indomitable, its weapons adding to the human firepower. Then an Anthari cruiser joined them. Then more. The coalition fleet, small and battered, formed up around the human ships. Admiral Hyunwoo opened a channel to all coalition vessels. Welcome to the fight. Target the Vryn command ships. They're the large ones with the brightest bioluminescence. Kill the commanders and the swarm falls apart. The combined fleet focused their fire and the Vryn began to truly falter. Without proper coordination, their numbers became a disadvantage. Ships collided with each other trying to maneuver. Commands became confused. The perfect swarm started to break down. On the Indomitable, Lieutenant Do-hyun was tracking something on his sensors. "Commander, I've found their flagship. It's at the edge of the system, trying to stay out of direct combat. That's where their Supreme Commander is coordinating from." Taeyang studied the tactical display. The Vryn flagship was massive, easily 10 times the size of any other ship. It was surrounded by a protective formation of heavy vessels. Taking it down would be almost impossible. Almost was good enough for humanity. "Mirai," Taeyang said over the communication channel, "I need you to do something insane." He could hear the smile in her voice when she responded. "My specialty, Commander. What do you need?" "See that big ugly ship at the edge of the system? I need you to kill it." There was a pause. "Sir, that's their flagship. It's got at least 200 ships defending it. My squadron would never make it through." "I know. That's why you're not going through them. You're going around." Taeyang explained his plan. It was reckless, probably suicidal, and would require flying through an asteroid field at speeds that would destroy most ships. Mirai listened, and when he finished, she laughed. "You're crazy, Commander." "I love it. Storm Squadron, on me. We're going hunting." Mirai led her best pilots away from the main battle, accelerating toward the asteroid field that bordered the system. Behind her, the fight continued to rage. Human ships and coalition vessels worked together now, their combined firepower slowly pushing the Vryn back. The Indomitable took another direct hit, this time penetrating the shields and tearing through the hull. Atmosphere vented from 3 decks before emergency systems sealed the breach. Taeyang received the damage report calmly. 12 more crew dead, weapon systems damaged, but they were still fighting. "Sir, Vryn are trying to retreat," Do-hyun reported. "About 2,000 ships are breaking off and heading for the edge of the system." "Don't let them escape," Taeyang ordered. "All ships pursue and destroy. We can't give them a chance to regroup and return." The human fleet broke formation and gave chase. They were faster than the Vryn, their engines designed for speed rather than organic growth. They caught the fleeing ships and destroyed them methodically, showing the same mercy the Vryn had shown to countless worlds. None. Meanwhile, Mirai flew through the asteroid field with her squadron. She pushed her fighter to maximum speed, weaving between massive rocks that could crush her ship with a single impact. Behind her, 2 pilots couldn't match her skill. Their fighters clipped asteroids and exploded. She felt the loss but kept flying. The mission mattered more than grief. They emerged from the asteroid field behind the Vryn flagship completely undetected. The defensive formation was facing the wrong way, focused on the battle happening on the other side of the system. Mirai could see the flagship clearly now. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kalindra system, and the first thing they saw was hell. Debris filled the space around them. Pieces of coalition ships drifted in the darkness, some still burning despite the vacuum. Bodies floated among the wreckage. Aliens who had died trying to defend worlds they would never see again. 3 planets hung in the distance, and 2 of them were on fire. Massive Vryn bioships orbited the worlds, launching pods full of invasion organisms toward the surface. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Commander Taeyang Park stood perfectly still, his face showing no emotion as he took in the devastation. His tactical display showed the nightmare in numbers. 8,000 Vryn ships filled the system. The remaining coalition forces numbered less than 300, and they were scattered, broken, retreating. Incoming transmission from Coalition Command, Lieutenant Do-hyun Kim announced. They're ordering us to retreat immediately. Taeyang ignored the order. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, watching the patterns of Vryn movement. They were everywhere like insects swarming over a corpse. They moved with coordinated precision, each ship knowing exactly where to go and what to do. Sir, we're surrounded, Do-hyun said quietly. They've detected us. Vryn ships are moving to intercept from all directions. Captain Mireille Choi stepped onto the bridge, already wearing her flight suit. Her face was set with grim determination. My pilots are ready. Give us the word and we'll launch. Admiral Hyunwoo Kang studied the tactical display with the practiced eye of someone who had seen hopeless battles before. They're sending 2,000 ships to deal with us. They think we're just another coalition force. They don't know we're human. A communication came through on the Vryn frequency. It wasn't words exactly. More like a feeling projected directly into their minds. The message was clear: surrender or die. The Vryn had sent the same message to every species they conquered. None had ever chosen to fight back successfully. Taeyang activated the communication system, but instead of responding to the Vryn, he broadcast on all coalition frequencies. Every surviving alien ship would hear what he said next. This is Commander Taeyang Park of the Human Defense Fleet. To all coalition forces, I want you to watch what happens next. Watch and learn. We're going to show you how Earth fights. He switched to the Vryn frequency. Admiral Hyunwoo had spent the journey learning their language, studying their patterns of communication. Now he broadcast directly to the enemy in words they would understand. Vryn Empire, this is Admiral Hyunwoo Kang. You have killed our friends. You have destroyed worlds that did not threaten you. You have made a mistake. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Humanity offers you one chance to retreat. Leave this system now, or we will show you why our species survived 10,000 years of warfare. This is your only warning. Silence answered them for a moment. Then the Vryn response came, full of contempt and amusement. These new creatures thought they could threaten the swarm? 200 tiny ships against the might of the Empire? It was pathetic. The Vryn accelerated their attack, eager to crush this new prey. Taeyang smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. All ships power up weapon systems. Lock targeting solutions on the approaching fleet. Prepare nuclear spread, pattern Delta 7. Dr. Jisoo Lee's voice came through from the weapons control center. All systems green. Railguns charged, plasma lances ready, warheads armed. The 2,000 Vryn ships closed in, their biohulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. They moved like a swarm of insects, each one connected to the others through some invisible network. They had done this countless times before. They would surround the enemy, overwhelm them with numbers, tear the ships apart, and move on, but they had never fought humans before. Fire, Taeyang said quietly. The human fleet opened fire in perfect synchronization. Every ship launched simultaneously, and space filled with nuclear warheads. Hundreds of them. The Coalition had banned nuclear weapons in space centuries ago, considering them too barbaric, too destructive. Humanity had no such restrictions. The warheads detonated in a pattern that Do-hyun had spent weeks calculating. The explosions created a wall of radiation and superheated plasma between the human fleet and the approaching Vryn. 300 Vryn ships simply vanished, vaporized by the nuclear fire. Another 200 were caught in the edge of the blast, their organic hulls burning and melting. Before the Vryn could react, the human ships moved. They didn't retreat or hold position. They advanced, accelerating through the nuclear fire like it was nothing. Their shields absorbed the radiation while their guns kept firing. Mireille's fighter wings launched from 6 carriers simultaneously. 300 small, fast craft shot into the chaos, their pilots executing maneuvers that no coalition pilot would attempt. They flew through debris fields at speeds that would have killed anyone with slower reflexes. They used the wreckage of Vryn ships as cover, popping out to fire missiles before disappearing again. The Vryn tried to swarm the fighters, but human point defense systems were designed to shoot down nuclear missiles traveling at hypersonic speeds. Vryn attack craft were slow by comparison. The automated weapon systems cut them down by the dozens. Jisoo's railguns fired next. The projectiles were too small to see, just dense metal slugs accelerated to incredible velocity. but when they hit, they punched through Vryn bioarmor like it was paper. The radioactive coating prevented the ships from healing, leaving gaping holes that vented atmosphere and organic fluids into space. Do-hyun coordinated the fleet movements with mechanical precision. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully calculated to create overlapping fields of fire. Any Vryn ship that tried to approach found itself in a crossfire from multiple directions. The humans called it the meat grinder, and it lived up to its name. The Vryn Supreme Commander, coordinating the battle from a massive bio-dreadnought at the system's edge, felt something it had never experienced before: confusion. These creatures were supposed to be easy prey. They had inferior numbers and less advanced technology. Yet they were winning. More Vryn ships moved in, trying to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. It was the tactic that always worked, but the humans seemed to have prepared for it. They launched mines that floated silently in space until Vryn ships came close, then detonated with focused energy bursts. They used electronic warfare to jam Vryn communications, disrupting the hive coordination. They targeted command nodes specifically, using missiles that could distinguish between regular ships and controllers. Captain Mirai led her squadron on a daring attack run through the Vryn formation. Her fighter's computer screamed warnings as she pushed the ship beyond safe limits, but she ignored them. She had a target, a large Vryn vessel that was coordinating an entire wing of attack craft. "Storm Squadron, follow my lead," she commanded. "Hit the node ship and break off. Don't get caught in the swarm." Her pilots followed her through a maelstrom of weapons fire. 2 fighters exploded, their pilots dying instantly. Mirai felt anger surge through her, but she kept flying. Emotion was fuel, not distraction. She armed her missiles and waited until the last possible second before firing. The missiles struck true, punching through the node ship's exterior and detonating inside. The vessel convulsed and died, and suddenly 200 Vryn craft lost coordination. They flew in confusion, some even colliding with each other. Mirai pulled up hard, her fighter's frame groaning under the G-forces. "That's how you do it! Take out the coordinators and the swarm falls apart." The battle raged for an hour of constant violence, of ships dying and weapons firing and space itself seeming to burn. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship covering others, rotating positions to give overheated weapons time to cool, focusing fire with devastating efficiency. The Indomitable took several direct hits, its armor scarred and burned. One of Jisoo's experimental plasma lances exploded, killing 12 crew members. But the ship kept fighting, its railguns never stopping, its missiles finding targets again and again. Coalition forces watched from their damaged ships, unable to believe what they were seeing. The humans were outnumbered 10-1 and they were winning. Their tactics were aggressive to the point of insanity. Their weapons more brutal than anything the Coalition had used, and their pilots flew like they had no fear of death. On the Indomitable's bridge, Taeyang watched his tactical display with satisfaction. They had destroyed over 1,000 Vryn ships. His own fleet had lost 15 vessels with another 30 damaged. The numbers weren't great, but they were surviving. More than surviving, they were killing the enemy. "The Vryn are pulling back," Do-hyun reported, his voice showing surprise. "They're regrouping at the edge of the system." Hyun-woo nodded slowly. "They're not used to taking losses. They need time to adapt their tactics." Taeyang opened a channel to all Coalition ships. "To all surviving forces, this is Commander Park. Reform your lines and prepare for round 2. We just showed the Vryn that we can hurt them. Now we're going to show them we can beat them." A Coalition captain, a being from the Keltar species, responded with something like awe in his voice. "Commander, how are you doing this? We've been fighting the Vryn for decades and we've never seen them retreat." The hyperspace corridor stretched endlessly before the human fleet. 200 ships traveled in perfect formation through the space between spaces, racing toward a war that most of the galaxy had already decided was lost. Inside the carrier Dawn's Edge, Captain Mirai Choi pushed her fighter pilots harder than they had ever been pushed before. Again, she shouted as the simulation reset for the 5th time in an hour. "You're too slow on the brake. The Vryn don't give you time to think. You see the target, you fire, you move. That's it." The pilots groaned, but nobody complained. Mirai was 34 years old and had more combat hours than anyone in the fleet. She had flown missions in Earth's last corporate wars, back when megacorporations fought over mining rights in the asteroid belt. She knew what real combat felt like when one mistake meant death. The simulation ran again. This time, the pilots moved faster, their fighters dancing through virtual space as they engaged holographic Vryn vessels. Mirai watched with critical eyes, noting every mistake, every hesitation. These were good pilots, but good wouldn't be enough. They needed to be perfect. In the simulation, the Vryn fought like they did in real life. They swarmed. Hundreds of small attack craft would converge on a single target, overwhelming it with sheer numbers. Traditional coalition tactics involved defensive formations and coordinated fire. It didn't work. The Vryn would simply absorb the losses and keep coming until the enemy was destroyed. But Mirai wasn't teaching coalition tactics. She was teaching something the galaxy had never seen before. Break formation, she commanded. Scatter and engage independently. Use the asteroid field for cover. Make them chase you. The pilots obeyed, and suddenly the simulation changed. Instead of an organized defense, it became chaos. Human fighters weaved through asteroids, using their superior acceleration to dart in and out of cover. They fired and ran. They led Vryn ships into traps. They used hit-and-run tactics that would have been considered cowardly by coalition standards. Mirai smiled as she watched. Cowardly or not, it worked. The simulation ended with 70% of human fighters surviving, compared to the usual 30% using standard tactics. That's how we do it, she told her pilots. We're not trying to be heroes. We're trying to survive and kill the enemy. Nothing else matters. 3 decks below, Dr. Jisoo Lee worked in her laboratory, surrounded by weapons that made coalition scientists nervous. The 41-year-old physicist had spent her entire career designing better ways to kill people. Now she was adapting those designs for use against aliens. She studied the holographic display of a Vryn bioship. The vessels were grown from living tissue, self-repairing and organic. Coalition energy weapons had limited effect because the ships could literally heal from the damage. Missile systems were countered by Vryn point defense organisms that intercepted incoming projectiles. But Jisoo had an idea. Humans had fought wars with nuclear weapons before they reached space. They understood radiation, heat, and kinetic force in ways that many peaceful species never had to learn. She was adapting old technology for new purposes. Her latest creation was a railgun that fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The kinetic energy alone could punch through the Vryn bioarmor. Better yet, the projectiles were coated in radioactive material that would poison the organic tissue, preventing regeneration. It's barbaric, one of the coalition observers had said when she first proposed it. Jisoo had simply shrugged. War is barbaric. That's why we're good at it. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Lieutenant Do-Yun Kim stared at screens filled with data. At 25, he was the youngest senior officer in the fleet, but his mind worked like a computer. He could see patterns where others saw chaos. He could predict movements before they happened. It was what made him invaluable. The Coalition had provided every piece of intelligence they had on the Vryn. Battle reports, tactical analyses, ship specifications, everything. Do-Hyun had absorbed it all in the first week of the journey. Now he was looking for weaknesses. The Vryn fought with a hive mentality. Each ship was controlled by a central consciousness that coordinated their movements. This made them incredibly efficient but also predictable. Once you understood the pattern, you could anticipate their tactics. Do-Hyun created simulation after simulation, testing different scenarios. What happened if you destroyed their command ships first? What if you overwhelmed their coordination with too many targets? What if you used weapons they had never encountered before? Every simulation gave him new data. Every data point brought him closer to understanding how to beat them. Commander Taeyang moved through the ship, checking on different departments, talking to crew members, making sure everyone was ready. He knew that morale would be critical in the coming battle. His people needed to believe they could win, even when the odds said otherwise. He found Admiral Hyunwoo in the observation deck, staring out at the swirling colors of hyperspace. The old man stood perfectly still, his hands behind his back. Having doubts? Taeyang asked, joining him at the window. Hyunwoo shook his head slowly. No doubts. Just memories. Do you know what bothers me most about the Coalition? What's that, sir? They're too civilized. They've forgotten how to fight. Most of these species achieved faster than light travel without ever having a world war. They reached the stars through cooperation and peace. Hyunwoo's voice held a strange mix of admiration and pity. They don't understand that sometimes to survive you need to be willing to do terrible things. Taeyang understood what the admiral meant. Humanity's history was soaked in blood. They had fought wars over everything imaginable. Religion, resources, ideology, territory, even simple pride. Millions had died in conflicts that, looking back, seemed pointless. But those wars had taught humanity something valuable: how to win at any cost. "The coalition saved us," Taeyang said quietly. "They gave us a second chance at life. Now we're going to show them what that gift created." Training continued throughout the fleet. Marines practiced boarding actions against simulated Vryn vessels. Engineers tested new weapon systems that violated several coalition treaties about humane warfare. Pilots flew drill after drill until the maneuvers became instinct. In the mess halls, soldiers talked about home. They shared pictures of families they might never see again. They told jokes to ease the tension. They prepared themselves mentally for what was coming. Some of the coalition observers who had joined the fleet to document the mission couldn't understand the humans' attitude. These people knew they were outnumbered. They knew they were heading into almost certain death. Yet they showed no fear. If anything, they seemed eager. One observer, a peaceful scholar from the Meridian species, approached Admiral Hyunwoo with a question that had been bothering her. "Admiral, your people seem almost excited about the coming battle. How can you face death with such enthusiasm?" Hyunwoo considered the question carefully before answering. "We're not excited about death. We're excited about the chance to fight for something that matters. Humanity spent thousands of years fighting each other over scraps. We killed our own brothers and sisters for oil, for land, for ideas. It was wasteful and tragic." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But now we get to use all that knowledge, all those hard-learned lessons, to save others instead of destroy them. We're not fighting for conquest. We're fighting for people who saved our world. That makes all the difference." The scholar didn't fully understand, but she recorded his words anyway. Future historians would want to know what the humans were thinking before everything changed. As the journey continued, Mirai's pilots became faster and more efficient. Jisoo's weapons passed every test. Dohyun's tactical models became more refined. The fleet transformed from a collection of ships into a single coordinated weapon. On the 18th day of the journey, they received their first distress call from Epsilon Sector. The Vryn assault had begun ahead of schedule. Coalition forces were already falling back. Casualties were mounting. The voice on the transmission was desperate, begging for reinforcements that weren't coming. Taeyang ordered the fleet to increase speed. They pushed their engines beyond recommended limits, shaving days off their travel time. The ship shuddered and groaned under the stress, but they held together. Human engineering had always favored durability over elegance. On day 20, another message arrived. This one was worse. The coalition defensive line had broken. Vryn forces were spreading across the sector like a disease. 3 planets were under direct assault. Millions were dying. The bridge crew listened to the transmission in grim silence. They could hear weapons fire in the background, screaming, explosions. Then the signal cut off abruptly. "Estimated time to arrival?" Taeyang asked, his voice steady despite the horror they had just heard. 48 hours at current speed, Do-hyun reported. "But Commander, even if we get there in time, the tactical situation is impossible. The Vryn outnumber the remaining coalition forces 100 to 1. Adding our fleet won't change the math significantly." Taeyang looked at the young officer and smiled grimly. "You're thinking like them, Lieutenant. You're thinking about numbers and logistics. That's not how humans win wars. We win by being meaner, smarter, and more willing to do whatever it takes." As the human fleet enters the war zone, the enemy faces immediate destruction. Story outline, 5 parts. Part 1. The gathering storm setting the year is 2547. The Galactic Coalition has been fighting a losing war against the Vryn Empire for 3 decades. The alien alliance, consisting of 12 species, faces extinction as the insectoid Vryn systematically conquer world after world with overwhelming numbers and biological weapons. Main characters. Introduction. Commander Taeyang Park. A decorated human fleet commander in his early 40s. Known for unconventional tactics, Captain Mirai Choi. Fighter squadron leader. Fearless and strategic Admiral Hyunwoo Kang. The eldest military strategist coordinating the human response, Dr. Jisoo Lee. Chief weapons scientist aboard the flagship, Lieutenant Do-hyun Kim. Young but talented tactical officer. Plot points. The Galactic Coalition Council convenes an emergency session on the fortress world of Antares Prime Coalition species. Share their despair. The Vryn advance seems unstoppable humanity. The newest member of the coalition has been relatively untouched by the war commander Tae-Yang receives orders. Take the entire human fleet to the Epsilon sector, where the Vryn are poised to break through the last defensive line. Flashback reveals why humans joined the coalition. The aliens saved Earth from an asteroid collision 5 years prior. The human fleet prepares to depart, consisting of 200 warships, a modest number compared to the thousands the Vryn command coalition leaders are skeptical. Humans have never faced the Vryn before Tae-Yang addresses his fleet. We owe them our world. Now we give them our strength. Part 2. The human difference setting en route to Epsilon sector through hyperspace. The journey takes 3 weeks, during which the human fleet prepares. Plot points. Captain Mirai drills her fighter pilots relentlessly. Introducing human combat maneuvers the Coalition has never seen. Dr. Jisoo unveils modifications to human weapons. Kinetic railguns, nuclear-tipped missiles, and experimental plasma weapons. Lieutenant Do-hyun analyzes all available Vryn combat data, noting their reliance on swarm tactics and bioorganic ships. Flashbacks reveal humanity's violent history, world wars, Cold War, countless conflicts that forced humans to perfect the art of warfare. Admiral Hyunwoo explains to Coalition observers why humans fight differently. We evolved as persistence hunters. We don't give up, ever. The fleet receives distress signals from Epsilon sector. The Vryn have begun their assault. Coalition forces are collapsing faster than expected. Tae-Yang orders the fleet to push engines beyond safe. Limits tension builds as the crew realizes they might arrive too late. Intercept message from a dying Coalition commander. Tell the humans, we're sorry we doubted them. Make them pay. Part 3. Hell arrives with a human face setting Epsilon sector, the Kalindra system. The Coalition's last stand crumbles as the human fleet emerges from hyperspace. Plot points. The human fleet drops into real space at the edge of the Warzone. Sensors immediately detect the carnage. Hundreds of wrecked Coalition ships. 3 planets under siege. The Vryn fleet numbers over 8,000 bioships. Surrounding the human fleet on all sides, Coalition survivors broadcast warnings. Retreat. You're outnumbered 40-1. Commander Tae-Yang's response. We didn't come here to retreat. Admiral Hyunwoo broadcasts on all frequencies, including Vryn channels, in perfect Vryn language. You have killed our friends. Surrender, or learn why Earth's history is written in blood. The Vryn respond with contempt, sending 2,000 ships to crush the insignificant human force. Tae-Yang gives the order. All ships free weapons. Show them what humanity learned in 10,000 years of war. The battle begins with humanity's opening move, a synchronized nuclear barrage that creates a wall of radiation and fire. 300 Vryn ships vaporize instantly. Captain Mirai leads her fighter wings through the confusion, targeting Vryn command nodes with precision strikes. Human capital ships use combat algorithms developed from centuries of naval warfare, creating kill zones and crossfire patterns. Dr. Jisoo's experimental plasma lances slice through Vryn bioarmor like paper. The Vryn attempt to swarm, but human point defense systems, designed to stop nuclear missiles, shred their attack waves. Lieutenant Do-hyun coordinates fleet movements with machine precision, always staying one step ahead. The Vryn lose 1,000 ships in the first hour. Coalition forces watch in stunned silence as the humans fight with calculated brutality. Part 4. The tide turns, setting the Kazaichu. Battle intensifies across the Kalindra system as the Vryn Empire commits its full strength. Plot points. The Vryn supreme commander realizes the humans are unlike any species they've encountered. The entire Vryn fleet converges on the human position. All 6,000 remaining ships. Tae-Yang's flagship takes heavy damage, but holds the line. Captain Mirai's fighter wing runs low on ammunition, but she leads daring boarding actions against Vryn command ships. The humans reveal their secret weapon. Tactical AI systems that predict Vryn movements with 87% accuracy. Dr. Jisoo activates the prototype weapon. Project Hellstorm, a coordinated barrage from all human ships that creates a cascading explosion across a light second. 2,500 Vryn ships are destroyed in a single devastating strike. The Vryn begin to falter. Their hive mind coordination disrupted by unprecedented losses, coalition survivors rally, inspired by human ferocity, and rejoin the battle. Admiral Hyunwoo broadcast to all coalition forces. See what happens when prey fights back. Join us. The tide of battle shifts as alien ships form up alongside human vessels. Lieutenant Do-hyun identifies the Vrin flagship. A massive bio-dreadnought Taiyang makes a bold decision. All ships target the flagship. We end this now. The human fleet focuses fire. Overwhelming the Vrin flagship's defenses, Captain Mireille personally delivers the killing blow. Flying her damaged fighter into the dreadnought's neural core, she ejects at the last second as the flagship explodes. The Vrin fleet collapses into chaos without central coordination. The remaining 2,000 Vrin ships attempt to retreat. When predators meet prey, setting the aftermath of the battle and the galaxy's reaction to humanity's display of military might. Plot points, Commander. Taeyang orders pursuit of the fleeing Vrin fleet. We don't let threats escape to regroup. Human ships hunt down retreating Vrin vessels over the next 6 hours. Only 200 Vrin ships escape back to their empire's territory. Final tally: 7,800 Vrin ships destroyed, 23 human ships lost, 89 heavily damaged. Captain Mireille is rescued. Hailed as a hero across the coalition, the Epsilon sector is secured. 3 planets are saved. Coalition leaders arrive to witness the aftermath of human warfare. Admiral Hyunwoo addresses the Galactic Coalition Council. Humanity learned war because we had no choice. We perfected it because we refused to die. We will teach you how to survive. The Vrin Empire sends an unprecedented communication. A request for negotiation. Dr. Jisoo's analysis reveals why humans were so effective. Humanity's weapons were designed to fight other humans, the deadliest species in known space. The coalition votes to make humanity the primary military force against the Vrin. Taiyang accepts. With conditions, we fight as equals, not as mercenaries, and we fight to win. Lieutenant Do-hyun discovers that the Vrin have never encountered a species that wages war as a science and an art simultaneously. Final scene. Taiyang looks at Earth through the viewport, remembering the asteroid that nearly destroyed humanity. You saved us when we needed it most. Now we'll return the favor 1,000 times over. Epilogue text. The Vrin Empire sued for peace 6 months later. They had never encountered a species that didn't just fight to survive, but fought to win. In humanity, the galaxy found not just allies, but apex predators who chose to protect rather than conquer. The Great Vrin War ended not with negotiation, but with a single terrifying lesson. Never threaten a species that spent its entire evolution learning how to kill. Themes: humanity's capacity for violence when defending others, the debt of gratitude and honor, the difference between survival and victory. Turning humanity's dark history into a tool for good. The concept of humanity, Fuxia, through strategic superiority tonipic, militaristic, triumphant with moments of sacrifice and camaraderie. The story celebrates human ingenuity in warfare while acknowledging the cost of violence.